So good morning once again. My name is Ryan Erickson Kulas. I'm the Director of Operations and Programs here at the Michelson 20mm Foundation. Been with the foundation for approximately 6 years now. Actually, it'll be 6 years next month. And I work across a variety of our different issue areas, including providing support to our Smart Justice program, as well as overseeing the operations of our Spark Grant program. And I'll toss it over to my colleague Kenya to introduce herself.
Good morning, everyone. Buenos dias. My name is Kenia Miranda Verdugo. I am the Smart Justice Program Manager here with Michelson 20 Million Minds. I have been with the foundation for about 2.5 years now. This will be my third Spark Grant cycle, so really excited about that. And I work with the Smart Justice Program, which is the intersection of higher education for systems impacted folks, as well as like creating educational opportunities and partnering with other organizations to achieve those goals.
So just a quick overview of what we'll be talking about today. We'll first give a high-level overview of our foundation to give you all a little bit of context about the work that we do. We'll then discuss the specifics of our Spark Grant program. We'll review the application process and the review process and what that looks like. And then we'll highlight some previous awardees. We always like to give some examples of organizations and projects that we've supported in the past so that you all have a good sense of the type of work that we support. And then we will have time for some Q&A towards the end of today's conversation. If you do have questions, please feel free to drop them into the Q&A section. And then from there, again, at the end, we will be able to reference them and then answer them. So our organization was founded and is funded by Dr. Gary K. Michelson. Dr. Michelson is a retired physician who made his fortune in inventing medical devices and then patenting those devices. Since then, he has retired and has devoted himself to philanthropy. Our organization, the Michelson 20mm Foundation, is one of a few of his different philanthropic efforts. He also supports the Michelson Medical Research Foundation, as well as Michelson Found Animals, which is an animal welfare organization. Dr. Michelson is a signer of the Giving Pledge, and really he got his start in thinking about education over a decade ago when he read a story in a local newspaper about students at Santa Ana College that were unable to progress in their educational journey simply because of the high cost of textbooks. So at the time, he started a scholarship fund, but realized that didn't really address the root of the issue. And out of that, the Michelson 20mm organization was born. We have obviously grown since that kind of emphasis on textbook affordability, but our core mission is to ensure that individuals have opportunities to advance and seek their full potential, primarily through equitable educational and economic outcomes. And I want to talk a little bit about some of the different types of work that we do outside of our Spark Grant program, outside of our Smart Justice program, before we jump into that. So the first thing that I'll mention is the Michelson Institute for Intellectual Property. As I shared, Dr. Michelson made his fortune in inventing medical devices and then patenting them. And so he is very passionate about bringing intellectual property education to the masses. And he does that through MIIP, the Michelson Institute for Intellectual Property. That wing of our organization has built out a curriculum, ebook, video series, online courses that faculty can incorporate into their business school, into their entrepreneurship courses. We also have resources for individual inventors and entrepreneurs so that they can protect their IP, similar to how Dr. Michelson did. We do have an impact investing wing of our organization. That's the Michelson Impact Ventures. There, we do targeted investments, usually pre-seed stage, into innovative ed tech ventures, anything that really aligns with our mission. It's really a mission-oriented investing with equity approach. And then the other aspects of the Michelson 20mm Foundation are focused on various issue areas that we've carved out expertise in through our staff. Student basic needs looks at the persistence and graduation rates of students within higher education and ensuring that things such as food insecurity, housing insecurity don't give a barrier to them successfully completing higher education. One of the focuses of that program is a specific population of pregnant and parenting students, and we've built out a whole plethora of resources, convenings, advocacy toolkits for folks that are supporting that population. As I mentioned, we got our start in the textbook affordability space, and growing out of that, we really deepened our work in the field of open educational resources, or OER. OER are instructional materials such as textbooks, lecture slides, course curriculum that have been released with a free Creative Commons license. The idea being that knowledge shouldn't necessarily be locked away, and that, again, that high cost of textbooks shouldn't preclude students from successfully advancing within their higher educational journey. And then the Digital Equity Initiative is actually one of our more recent areas of work. We launched that in the wake of COVID and in the year 2020. Obviously, so many students were learning remotely. And so it really highlighted the need for us as an organization to ensure that folks had access to high-speed internet, that they had the digital literacy skills available to them in order to successfully navigate that hybrid or that remote world, also making sure that they had access to devices. This particular initiative also has a focus on tribal communities and working with those communities to ensure that they have access to high-speed broadband. So wanted to just give you a little bit of context of some of the other areas of our work outside of smart justice. That way, if there are areas of intersect that you see in any of your work, you can certainly reach out to us and we can connect you with our program leads for that work. I'll toss it over to Kenya to share a little bit more about our smart justice efforts.
Thank you, Ryan. So we did launch our Smart Justice Initiative 5 years ago to leverage higher education as a catalytic force for transforming the lives of justice-involved individuals while also reforming the justice system itself. We work to transform the communities impacted by our country's punitive legal system to forge brighter, more prosperous futures via education. And we will now I'll be giving a program overview, including like the mission, the vision, commitment, and the timeline for our Spark Grant program. The vision is to fund highly impactful initiatives that would not be possible if they needed to wait through a traditional grant decision timeline, as our timeline is a little bit quicker than most. The mission is to introduce an innovative, just-in-time grant-making process to meet the urgent needs of organizations aligned with our focused areas. The commitment is to make decisions on all applications within 6 weeks of our call for proposals closing. And the timeline for this year's grant funding cycle opens September 3rd, 2024, and it closes September 17th, 2024. This year, our timeline has shifted. It is a little bit different. Usually we begin at the end of the year, and this time we are starting off our Spark Grant cycle at the end of summer, early fall. The Spark Grant program is available to United States-based nonprofits. For this round of funding, we have decided to focus our impact on organizations that are doing work in the state of California. Organizations whose work does not impact California will be ineligible for this opportunity. We seek to fund efforts that provide scalable solutions that can impact individuals statewide and are not limited to just one particular campus. We welcome proposals where Michelson Spark Grant funds are a part of a larger overall project with multiple funding streams. And I'll give it back to Ryan.
Just to quickly share, I think one of the questions that we often will get is, are educational institutions eligible for Spark grants? And the answer to that is certainly yes. We would probably work through the foundation to award those dollars at your individual school. So both nonprofit institutions as well as educational institutions. So we're going to talk a little bit about the evaluation framework of how we evaluate proposals coming in through our Spark Grant program. And we're looking at 6 different dimensions of evaluation. Does it meet our baseline criteria? Is it aligned with our focus areas? What is the potential impact? What's that measurability of the impact look like? What does the organization that's submitting this program have in terms of sustainability, presence in the space, as well as what is the potential scalability of the project? So I'll talk quickly about the baseline criteria, and then I'll let Kenya share a bit about the focus areas for this year's Spark Grant cycle. But we generally are looking for grants that are up to $25,000. These are project-based grants. So we are typically asking folks, what project would you be executing that aligns with the focus areas that we are looking to support? That could be starting a pilot program. That could be a partnership with a new organization to launch a new program. That could be expanding on a program that has been proven out already. As Kenya mentioned, we are open to our dollars being combined with other areas of funding. So certainly if that were the case, you would just share that in your proposal materials. We are not able to award general operating grants at this point in time. And typically one of the questions that we will frequently get is, what is the length of time of the grant period? I would say it ranges generally, and we ask organizations to submit in their LOI how many months that project would entail. Generally, we see folks that are successful with their proposals within that 6-month to 1-year timeframe. Stretching it, sometimes we've had grant engagements that have gone an 18-month period. Obviously, with $25,000, we're not envisioning that that's going to be a multi-year project or a multi-year engagement. But of course, we want to leave it kind of up to the organization to share what they're thinking. And I'll toss it over to Kenya to share a little bit more about our focus areas for this year.
So this year's focus areas, we do try to be very intentional about what areas we want to focus on. And so for this year's Spark Grant cycle, we chose the following focus areas. The first is efforts that scale and increase higher education and workforce development programming for incarcerated women. Projects should improve post-release opportunities and reduce recidivism, and it can include, but is not limited to, implementing and scaling gender-responsive curricula that address the unique needs and challenges faced by incarcerated women, increasing vocational training opportunities in high-demand fields, ensuring that women gain skills that are relevant to the current job market, incorporating life skills training, including financial literacy, parenting, and relationship management, establishing ongoing partnerships and memorandums with educational institutions and employers to facilitate gender-specific post-release education and employment opportunities, and incorporating counseling, mentorship, and other support services to address issues such as trauma, substance abuse, and mental health as part of the educational curriculum. The next focus area is multi-generational programming that supports the children of incarcerated individuals and prevents the school-to-prison pipeline. Efforts can include, but are not limited to, addressing trauma and mental health needs of children of incarcerated parents, maintaining the parent-child bond during incarceration, supporting the caregivers or guardians of the children of incarcerated parents, offering mentorship programs geared toward college access and success for students with incarcerated parents, and providing workforce development opportunities for youth and young adults with incarcerated parents. The next focus area are efforts focused on increasing higher education retention and completion rates for individuals in prison and individuals being released from prison. And this includes bridging support during a person's release from prison to ensure continuity and completion of a person's higher education journey, leveraging the talent and experience of incarcerated graduates in ongoing higher education and prison programs, and creating paid tutoring, mentoring, fellowship, and research opportunities for higher education and prison program alumni. So those who have already gone through a higher education and prison program and are now looking for the next step. Our last focus area is workforce development efforts focused on engaging, educating, and partnering with employers to create job opportunities for systems impacted individuals. One of the examples is reducing the stigma of hiring systems impacted individuals and creating more streamlined and equitable hiring practices that open the door for onboarding systems impacted individuals. Continuing on the dimensions of evaluation, we will be looking for the potential impact of a proposal. So this includes how many individuals will the grant impact? In an ideal case, what is the impact of the project? In the worst case, what is the impact of the project? And how likely it is that the project is successful. We will also be looking at the measurability of impact. So how effective the proposed metrics for measuring success for the project are, how realistic is the proposed project impact, and the project timeline.
And we do ask folks within the LOI that you submit to identify 3 key performance indicators or KPIs that you would judge the success on the grant of. So that gives us a good indicator of sort of what you're hoping to achieve through this project. Over the course, if you were awarded the grant, during our sort of grant agreement drafting process and during the conversations leading up to our decision, we might have questions about those KPIs, or we might talk through what those could look like, but we really want to get that sense of how you all are seeing the success of the project.
We will also be looking at the long-term organization sustainability. So through our Spark Grant cycle, we are hoping to build partnerships. We don't just want this to be a one and done deal, which is why we do look for sustainability and scalability. So we look for your current team and partners, the business model, and existing resources and revenue streams. Continuing on the scalability of the project, we support systems level strategies that can create impact at scale and inform public policy. This includes but is not limited to initiatives, partnerships, programs, models, and research whose outcomes will have a regional effect.
And I see some folks dropping questions in the chat. If you could drop those in the Q&A feature, that would just allow us to kind of have them in one place. I'm trying to answer them a bit on the fly, but we certainly will have some time at the end of this presentation to answer those. I think this scalability piece often is a question that folks have in thinking about, a $25,000 grant. And our expectation is not that during the grant period, this work could potentially be scaled, but the idea is this something that, if proven out, could potentially have a larger impact? Obviously, public policy is sort of one area of that. Maybe it is a pilot program that you all, have a network that you can share out the learnings of that pilot program. So it's not necessarily limited to one geographical location. So in terms of kind of the nuts and bolts of how you'll go about applying, we will open our portal on September 3rd, and it will remain open until September 17th. From there, and when you go to our Spark Grant page, and let me drop it in the chat right now, you won't see it right now, but you will see, starting on September 3rd, a submit a proposal button. And that's how you will actually submit your LOI. We have on that page right now, and I know that this was a question that I believe someone already dropped in the Q&A. We have a copy of both the LOI and the full application. So you can start the process of looking to kind of coalesce the information currently. We'll talk a little bit about this as we move forward, but we do ask folks initially for that LOI, and then we'll invite folks for a full application. So depending on how you want to go about it, I would certainly focus on that LOI. Also, certainly encourage folks to apply early. I would say, I'm a very deadline-driven person, so I totally understand. We generally will get 80 to 85% of proposals coming in within the last 48 hours or so of our call for proposals opening. But of course, if you want to be an early bird, we love to see proposals coming in right when we open it up. We do have a grant management platform called Submittable. So when you click that apply button, you will be brought to Submittable. If you don't already have a account within Submittable, you'll register for one. All the communications will be occurring through Submittable. If you're invited to submit an application, that will be done through Submittable. If you are awarded the grant, we'll collect financial information and things like that through Submittable. One thing that I will note, particularly for educational institutions, oftentimes there are spam filters set up, and we've seen Submittable get blocked in terms of their communication. Actually, in recent time, this has dramatically decreased. But I think on the safe side, we would recommend safe listing Submittable in your email client. And I'm just going to drop a link in the chat as to how you would go about that. So this is our grant committee. Obviously, a couple of familiar faces there, myself as well as Kenya. In addition to that, we'll have our CEO, Phil Kim, who's been with the organization for over a dozen years. Our Chief Operating Officer, Myra Lumbera, who's been with the organization for over 10 years, and then Miguel Leon, our Senior Director of Programs and Strategic Initiatives, who's currently on paternity leave because he just welcomed a new member of his family. So he will be back to help review our LOIs, but we're wishing him well as he is bonding with his newborn baby. And then I'll turn it over to Kenya to talk a little bit about how we involve community members and community leaders in helping us to evaluate and shape grant proposals and our grant priorities.
So we do convene what we call the Spark Community Advisors. And in order for us to be intentional about our grants, we bring together Spark Community Advisors that will assist us with the decision-making process. So after the LOI portion, we do receive applications, and our Spark Community Advisors help us review the applications, and then we continue to have conversations with them on like their ratings and receive feedback and definitely take it into account. This year's Spark Community Advisors, we have Azucena Wood Hardesty, who is the coordinator at San Diego State University Vista program, which is a new program that just kicked off last year. So we're really excited to have her. We also have Gail Yan, who is the policy director for Root and Rebound. And Gail has been a partner with us for a few years now, ever since I started with the organization. So really lucky to have her as well. We have Ryan Flacco Rising, who is with UC Irvine. He's currently a PhD candidate. He has participated in a couple of our webinars before. He's also the founder of West Coast Messengers. So we are excited to have him help us with our review process. And then we have Alejandra Gutierrez, who is the policy attorney at the Youth Law Center. She does a lot of work in the Central Valley, and we have also been trying to dip our toes into learning more about the Central Valley and bringing more resources to that region. So we're also really lucky to have her with our Spark Community Advisors.
And apologies to Alejandra. I'm not sure if on my screen it's not showing her picture, but it is in the deck. So I'm not sure if there's a technical issue. Are you seeing her picture, Kenya?
Oh no, she's not coming up on she's coming
Yeah,
up.
so I apologies for that, Alejandra, if you are joining this webinar today, for the technical difficulties there. Oh, now she's showing up. Okay, well, there's Alejandra.
There you go. So the evaluation process, after the LOI is submitted, the grant committee will do an initial assessment. So that is myself and our leadership team. And then within 6 business days, you will be notified if your proposal is moving forward in the process. Proposals that advance will be asked to complete a full application, and then full applications will be assessed, and applications designated finalists will be reviewed by the Spark community advisors. We may schedule follow-up calls with those that advance to the finalist stage in case the grant committee requires additional information, and you will be notified of the grant committee decision within 6 weeks of our call for proposals closing. Just to give a little bit of stats from previous years, we usually receive about 45 LOIs, and about 25% of those move to the second round. LOIs should be brief, around 500-word abstract on the project, and we will be funding 3 to 4 proposals this year. The reason that we do it this way is because we definitely don't want to waste anybody's time who we feel like their proposal doesn't align with the focus areas. Like we mentioned before, we are very intentional about the focus areas, which is why they shift every year. And so if we don't find any alignment between a proposal and the focus areas, we just let them know early on so we don't waste anybody's time by bringing them into the application process. It is important to note that we intentionally designed and developed this process to be mindful of your time and resources, and that is again why we only proceed to give applications to those LOIs that do resonate with our focus areas. So this is a little bit of a diagram of the timeline and what it looks like. So we receive the LOIs, we reject or move forward, then the full application is completed, the finalists are reviewed by the Spark community advisors, and then the finalist call occurs, and then the final decisions are made. We will also now be sharing a little bit of our past Smart Justice awardees, just so you all can get an idea of what kind of organizations have applied and become awardees before. So one of our previous awardees is the Campaign for College Opportunity. The Campaign for College Opportunity strengthens higher education access and success through 3 main strategies: policy advocacy, partnerships, and public awareness. Our grant launched the campaign's CJ initiative, which features interviews with current system-impacted students pursuing higher education to identify barriers and resources that students face, culminating in policy recommendations. Another previous awardee is the Forestry and Fire Recruitment Program. They provide career support to formerly incarcerated firefighters and currently incarcerated individuals who are interested in careers in the wildland and forestry sector. And our grant supported FFRP in their expansion to the Bay Area as they open their new headquarters. We have also previously funded Impact Justice. They are a national innovation and research center advancing new ideas and solutions for justice reform. I believe this past year, we awarded them a Spark grant to bolster their CJL Alumni Network program. And this network program focused on skill building, networking, connection opportunities, and a deeper dive into topics that interest their alumni. We have also funded UCI Lifted. UCI Lifted laid the foundation for a new way of achieving education in the state of California, moving us one step closer to the dream of allowing anyone from anywhere to educate themselves into a better life. They were the first UC to create a degree granting program behind bars, and our grant supported a demonstration project to establish this bachelor degree program. Ryan will now highlight other awardees outside of the Smart Justice Program.
Thanks, Kenya. And yeah, we like to give folks, again, sort of other examples, even though they aren't necessarily related to our Smart Justice work, of organizations, projects that we have supported in the past. The first that I'll talk about is Young Invincibles. This was actually an awardee out of our student basic needs endeavor. They spearheaded a student-led research project, which we love seeing when students are being incorporated into the efforts of our grants, to look at what the effectiveness is of California's recent investment into basic needs center at the community college levels. One of the things that we're often interested in is policy implementation work and understanding what that looks like on the ground once a policy has passed. So getting information around, what's working, what's not working to inform the space around what needs to be potentially improved, edited, tweaked, etc. U.S. Public U.S. PIRG, or U.S. Public Interest Research Group, another example of research that has pushed forward policy. Our grant funded a report analyzing the textbook industry's automatic billing framework, also known as inclusive access. The idea being that students would automatically be charged as a fee on their tuition for access to their instructional materials, students not having the opportunity to actually opt into that fee, but instead need to actually take the active step to opt out. This research has spurred a lot of policy work, both within California as well as across the country. It's been cited in class action lawsuits against publishers. So again, this idea of a piece of research having a scalable impact to work throughout the country. And actually, Kenny, I'll let you talk about A New Way of Life.
A New Way of Life is one of our most recent grantees. They are an organization that promotes healing, power, and opportunity for formerly incarcerated people by taking a multifaceted approach to mitigating the effects of and ultimately eliminating mass incarceration. Our grant was able to help transform their workforce development curriculum to an online format and test its effectiveness with residents of a New Way of Life reentry program. They were able to assist 23 people step into employment opportunities after this curriculum was launched. And so they currently have a 100% success rate.
That, we'll open it up to the Q&A section. A couple of things I just wanted to highlight prior to sort of jumping into the questions that have been submitted. One, please feel free to reach out to either myself or Kenya if you have specific questions about your proposal, if you want to talk through things. One of the things that we often will encourage folks to do is either send an email or schedule some time to connect with Kenya to talk through their proposal prior to actually going forth and kind of completing and submitting that LOI. Our philosophy behind that is, we want to make sure that we're prioritizing and valuing your time and the work that you're doing in the space, and knowing that, grant proposals are not the best thing for you and your time, but really it's all about kind of serving folks in the space and serving folks in the field. So, if you can send us an email with a quick blurb around, hey, here's what I'm thinking. Does this align with your focus area or not? We are able to respond and say, yeah, absolutely. We would encourage you to submit an LOI. Please make sure that you include information X, Y, and Z to kind of provide us with a more holistic view of your proposal. Conversely, we might say, no, we don't think that this is necessarily a fit for what we're looking for right now. And then it sort of saves you all some time in terms of completing that LOI and putting time, energy, and effort into that. And then Kenya is also open to scheduling time with you all. I think Kenya, you have a link. Oh, perfect. Kenya just dropped a link in the chat to schedule some time on her calendar. Again, that same mindset of, hey, can a quick 30-minute call either provide you all with some guidance or maybe save you some time. So please feel free to take advantage of that. We will be sending out that link in future email communications as well for those who have registered for this webinar. And then I know there was a question in the Q&A around these slides. These slides will be available as well. So if you've registered for this webinar, you'll get a copy of this deck. So I'm going to jump into the Q&A and kind of, if you have additional questions, please drop them in there. I see a few questions around indirect costs. Our organization has a federally negotiated indirect cost rate. However, we defer to funder policies. Does the Michelson 20mm Foundation have a policy on indirect costs? Yes. So we generally ask that indirect costs are 10% or less. We have some flexibility. So if there's, a particularly salient reason why that wouldn't work for you all, please shoot us an email. And then there was another question in the Q&A around, do indirect costs, are they inclusive of the $25,000? And the answer to that would be yes. So the entire amount that we're able to award to an individual organization is $25,000. Is there a date by which you need projects to start by? I would say there's not a hard date necessarily. The idea of this program is that it is a sort of rapid response, quick infusion of cash for a need. I would say on the far end, if work was starting in like the 6 to 9 month range, we would probably be open to that. But I think, of course, we're going to prioritize organizations or projects that need that rapid infusion of cash. Kenya, I might defer this one to you. I'll read it aloud. Where would providing high school equivalency program training, testing, and passing for justice-impacted individuals fall under the core focus areas? It seems to touch on a few. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for that question. So like we mentioned, one of the focus areas is the hopes of it being multi-generational efforts, so hoping to support the children of incarcerated parents. A big focus is more so on enhancing and strengthening the familial bond, as well as getting them college ready, getting the incarcerated parents college ready, and then also creating those pathways for their children. High school equivalency programs don't really step into that higher education focus that we typically have. But I would like to learn a little bit more. So if you could please send me an email or schedule a call with me so we could just dive into that a little bit further.
Are we eligible if we have received the Spark grant in the past? Yes, certainly eligible to receive an additional Spark grant. We've had a few organizations that we've given multiple Spark grants to. I think, if you had a current grant ongoing that's still sort of in the middle, I think recommend scheduling some time to connect with us just to get a better sense of kind of where you are thinking that this additional grant would go towards, but you would not be ineligible to receive a future Spark grant. Kenya, I think another question for you around sort of the type of stuff we would be interested in funding. Our organization provides healing arts education to youth in probation facilities and other system-impacted youth. We have an emphasis on introducing system-impacted youth to the creative economy and set them up for a future career in the arts. Although it's not traditional higher education / workforce development, would this be an eligible program for this funding opportunity?
So currently in our Smart Justice program, we haven't really tapped into youth justice because we mainly focus on higher education and creating higher education pathways, and that mainly entails working with adults. But again, please reach out to me so we can dive into this a little bit further. I just will say we haven't really worked in the youth justice field just yet. So that might be a little bit more of a complex question.
How many days after being invited to the full application is that application due? Generally, it's around 10 to 14 days, but we'll work with an organization to say, hey, what is a timeline that sort of works for you? So 2 weeks or so, but again, certainly open. I will say if you submit your LOI early, that'll kind of provide us with a bit of lead time in terms of reviewing it and then kind of referring back to you and potentially have the opportunity to have a longer than that 2 week period for your full application. Will all future grant opportunities focus on organizations in California? I think at this time for our Smart Justice program, yes, we will have a focus on work being done in California or work that's impacting California. I'd like to echo the recent question about healing arts programs that also help people with employable skills. Is that the type of program supported if working with adults in prison or formerly incarcerated adults? Kenya, I'll defer to you there, but I think yes, we'd probably be more open to that healing art type of program with that adult focus, with those workforce pathways. I'm not inaccurate there, hopefully?
Yeah, no, completely correct. And this question is from Eli from Uncuffed. So hi, Eli. I will be dropping the link again. Hopefully you're able to see it.
Great. So again, we just dropped in that scheduling link. It will also be sent out in the email communication following this webinar, including with this deck, probably within the next 24 hours or so. We will get our Marcoms team sending that out.
Actually, Ryan, I sent you the link. It only lets me send it to host and panelists, not everyone. So I think it
Oh,
has popping.
yeah. I'm having some issues with the Zoom chat. Can you send it to me on Slack and then I will drop it there.
Perfect.
Sorry, folks. Technical difficulties as always.
There you go.
Awesome. Just give me 1 second. And apologies for that, y'all. I am dropping it in the chat right now. Hopefully, folks can see that.
Yeah, it should be on. Thank you for bringing that up, Eli.
Question. We are looking to expand an innovative EMDR school-based mental health program to encompass more of our justice system impacted students. We serve 7th to 12th graders and are a college-focused charter school program. Does that seem like a good fit?
Yeah, like I mentioned before, we haven't really touched into youth justice, and our focus is on people that are currently informally incarcerated or their close family members. So if it doesn't serve the justice impacted population, then that wouldn't apply to the Smart Justice program.
Are there ever opportunities for grants from other areas of the foundation for organizations outside of California? I would say in our open educational resources work and in our student basic needs work and our digital equity work, we've had more of a focus on federal policy. I don't think that we would be interested in supporting work that's being done like in a state specific place, but if there's education advocacy on federal issues that's impacting certain populations, we would be open to that for other opportunities. Who can we talk to learn more about your potential interest in increasing investments in the Central Valley? I think that'd be you, Kenya. Yeah.
Yes, please. So you can feel free to email me. We also on our YouTube channel had previously had a webinar highlighting work being done in the Central Valley. So if you're interested in watching that, but you can also feel free to email me as well.
All right. I'm just going to see if there are Any other questions that are coming in? And I'm going to actually drop in that uh, YouTube link to it because I was able to quickly Google it, which impresses myself sometimes. There's the link to the YouTube video that Kenya just referenced.
Awesome. That you had that ready to go.
I try. All right. Oh, one more question. Sorry if you asked this before, but can you submit several LOIs if partnering with different organizations on different projects? You can, David. I would strongly encourage you to connect with Kenya, because I think she would be able to provide you with some guidance as to, what might be one of the stronger proposals. So again, like in kind of the ethos of saving you all time and energy, it might be worth kind of sharing with Kenya, hey, here are the ideas that we're thinking about, are one or are multiple of these, of interest to the grant committee. Can you provide a rule of thumb for generally how many students you would like to see impacted by a given program? I don't think that we necessarily have a limit in terms of a lower end. I would say if a project is only going to have an impact on 10 individuals, it probably would not be appealing to us as an organization. And again, thinking about that sort of scalability factor, I think we've seen projects where hey, we are going to be supporting 20 students going through this pathway, but over the course of that cohort, we are going to be reviewing and modifying our curriculum to better set us up for success in the future. And so that kind of idea of it's not just these 20 students, but it's also going to be, successive cohorts of students going through the program who are going to be impacted by kind of that learning. And again, that's where it comes into that, pilot program idea model is often very appealing for us, and sort of early seeding of a model so that we have, the ability to kind of say to our support and to our funders, hey, it's not just this group of students, but it's going to be, the subsequent years of students as well. And knowing that we're not expecting you all as an organization to, share with us on a yearly basis what those numbers are going to look like, but it allows us to sort of, again, make that case to the grant committee as well as to our funder. Would you be interested in funding an evaluation of an existing program that hasn't thoroughly been evaluated? Yeah, I think that type of, obviously would love to get more details on that, but I think that would be certainly a type of project that would be appealing to us because, again, it gets to that sort of efficacy and what future impact it would have. Does this extend to Nigeria? No. So again, our work is primarily focused in California for our smart justice endeavors. So we would ask that any project that is funded has an impact on those in California. I love it. So many questions. I feel like this is one of the most amount of questions we've gotten on one of these webinars, which is great because I mean, this is the reason that we're here, is to sort of provide y'all with kind of some guidance, and really do appreciate your time and your attendance and your questions. So it looks like the questions have slowed down. Interested in rescue dog training / incarcerated persons. Renee, I would just encourage you to shoot Kenya an email or schedule some time to connect. Obviously we also have an animal welfare organization, which I mentioned at the top of this webinar. They're not directly connected to our work, but oftentimes there are partnerships between us and Michelson Found Animals. So please feel free to reach out and schedule some time with Kenya and or shoot her an email. I'm going to pause because I feel like when I say, okay, it looks like the questions have come to a close, we'll get another one, which is great. Again, we love these questions. My wife is an educator and she says, count to 8 seconds. I think I've done that. So we'll wrap this webinar, but please thank you again for your participation, for joining us. We'll be sending out these resources. The copy of the LOI and the full application are available on our website, our Spark grant page. And again, strongly encourage you to reach out to myself, to Kenya, to answer any further questions. But hope everyone has a great day.
Thank you. I look forward to meeting with most of you. Have a great rest of your day.